doing? How's everybody doing? Good? We're going to give away this watch today, if that's okay with you guys. I don't know if you can see it up on the screen. It's pretty nice. So before we get him up here, I just want to tell a story. So, I remember when I first met Christoph. It was a couple months before we moved over to the UK. The night before we decided we were going to move over, it was me and Josh and Derek. We were in a car on the way to an Atlanta Thrashers hockey game, and we got a call from Jesse who said, do you want to send some owners over to the UK? And we got excited about that, and we talked about it all night long. And the next day, we went in, and we were so excited. We hadn't slept the night before, and we were running the morning meeting talking about how we're going to expand to the UK and how we're going to take the top 5 owners from the states that we had at the time and bring them on over. And Derek and I were running an office together in Atlanta at the time. And after the morning meeting, this kid comes up to me. And it was Christoph, and he says, "Hey, my name is Christoph." I said, "How are you?" He said, "Good." He said, "Hey, I want to go with you guys to the UK." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "Well, how long have you been here?" He's like, "Well, I started yesterday." And I'm like, "Well, I don't." And he was like on a road trip, so he must have, had his interview like the week before and come to our office on a road trip. And he's like, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "I think that's really ambitious of you." He's like, "Well, can I come?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, what do I need to do?" And I'm like, "All right, get promoted in 6 months, open up an office, train 2 other people to get to management, save $25,000, and give me a call." So 7.5 months later, I get a call. "Hey, Justin, this is Christoph. You remember me?" I'm like, yeah. "How'd everything go?" He's like, "Good." He's like, "So I have $50 more to save, and then I've hit my goal. So I booked a ticket for 2 days from now. I'm coming over to England." And I'm like, "Okay, well, at least come over and visit, come check it out, and make sure you like it." And so he comes over, and we sit there and talk. And at the time, he's running one of the top offices in America. He's making like $3,500–4,000 a week. And I'm like, "Are you sure? You'd have to start back in the field. You'd have to start back from ground zero. You wouldn't be making the owner stroke anymore. You'd be taking a huge step back." And he's like, "I have gigantic goals. I really want to do this." And so we say fine. And a couple weeks later, he comes over, and he's living at my house. And a couple days into it, we're sitting there, and I say, "Christoph, I got to ask you a question." I'm like, "You're either the smartest guy in the world for trying to take a shortcut or the dumbest guy for leaving what you had, and why'd you come over? Things are going really well for you." And he's like, I have really big goals, Justin." I said, "What are they?" And he says, "Well, my father hasn't had the best life, and he's always worked really hard, and I care about him a lot, and I'd love to retire him. And, it's like if I had a dollar for every time someone told me that be on a beach somewhere right now." And so we keep playing. We're playing like backgammon at the time, and he's like, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, I think that's cute." He's like, "Well, what do you think the chances are?" And I'm kind of trying to avoid the question. I'm like, "Well, when do you want to do it?" He's like, "Well, 14 months from today, I want to retire my father." He's like, "Well, what do you think the chances are?" I'm like, "I don't know, probably 0.00001%. And I go back to the game, and I don't really want to make eye contact with him, and he looks at me, and he goes, and to those of you guys who know Christoph, this really sums him up. He's like, "So you're saying there's a chance?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's a chance." And he's like, "Well, what would that look like? Like, what would I have to do for the next 14 months? And we sat there, and we designed like the ultimate make someone not want to do something game plan of what he would need to do. He talked about he needed to be in the field on Sunday until he built his crew up to a certain point. And even when he got to management and other people got lazy and pat themselves on the back, what he would need to do. And what I didn't realize, because I didn't know him that well yet, was there wasn't a 0.00, there was a 100% chance. Because when a guy like Christoph, and for those of you guys who are lucky enough to know him and work with him, when a guy like that meets an opportunity like this, the only thing that can happen is whatever he wants to happen. And that's it. And we're so excited to see where he's come. And since then, he retired his father on stage. Some of you guys were there at the rally 2 years ago. Then he got bored of speaking English. He thought business was too easy in English. He went over to Portugal and built a big business over there and got excited about that. And then went over to Italy. And he's going to help us expand into other places this year. But really more than anything, what I love about what we do is that you take a guy like that and you give him an opportunity, and the sky's the limit. And we're promoting him to vice president today. One of the best moments of my career. I'm sure one of the best days of his life. But in comparison to what he's going to do in this business, it's just a small step, but a huge and a really important step nonetheless. So it's his day. I want to get him up here. Welcome to vice presidency, Christoph Grizzard.
Hello, England. How are you? first, I'd just like to say thanks to all the vice presidents that have allowed us to have the opportunity that we have for paving the way. Sometimes it's the smallest conversations that make the biggest difference, and they've always been there for me, and I'm really, really proud to be part of an organization where that's the culture. I have a special thanks for sure to you, Justin. I think that learning and changing yourself enough to get to the point where you can really become a great leader and a great mentor and a great coach is just an unbelievable achievement, and it's a lifelong process. And I also think that learning and changing yourself enough to become a true friend, someone who's there for you unconditionally, is something really, really beautiful. And that you've been so good to me on both of those areas really means a lot to me, especially because a lot of times those two areas don't agree. And I tell you what, I wake up every day and I'm grateful that I met you. So thank you, Justin. Next, I just want to say thanks to the team. All you guys out there that allowed me to have a day like this. We've had a lot of great times along the way. We've had a lot of victories. We've had a lot of laughs. And I appreciate that. But what I appreciate more than that are the hard times. I look back at the last 6 years, and I remember a time when I was just a brand new manager in Maidstone, and I'm working with this guy Boyd Parker, who almost everybody here should know. And if you know Boyd, he's like 12, 14 feet tall, something like that. And so he comes in. I'm a short guy, so he comes into my office. I'm at my office, and I'm just getting the hang of things. I'm just starting to learn how this is. And he comes to my office, and he's upset, which is just kind of a weird thing to see a giant upset. And he comes into my office. He pulls out. He empties his pockets, and he takes out this 50p coin, and he flips it at me. And I'm like, what's wrong, Boyd? He flips his coin, and I'm like, what is this 50p? Like, I don't need a tip, And he's like, it's all I got. He's like, bailiffs came around my house today. He's like, I'm in the worst situation. I am broken. I am in 47,000 pounds of debt. And I've got till April 1st, or I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy. He said, Christoph, I don't have till April 1st to get promoted to assistant management. I got till April 1st to be making at least, 1,500 pounds a week. Otherwise, I'm done. And, I talked to my parents about it, and, I talked to some of my friends, and, I'm a qualified welder, and I could go back to that right now, and I figured up the math, and if I go do that right now, it's guaranteed income, and I could be out of debt in 5 to 7 years. He said, what should I do? Can you promise me that if I stay here, that I could get out of this situation? And I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm really on the spot now, and I really my back's against the wall. And I said to him, listen, Boyd, I can't promise you success. I can't promise you success. But what I can promise you that that's possible, and I can promise you that we'll do it together. And if you're going to go down, I'm going to go down with you. But to hell with going down. Let's go win. Let's go do it. And spent the rest of that week with Boyd and with Josh Peace in a car ride, taking out observations, taking out retrains, knocking on doors in the Isle of Sheppey. And, Boyd not only from that day went out and hit his goal, but by April 1st, he was making 2,500 pounds a week. Within 60 days, he was completely debt-free. It's down to him. Thank you, Boyd. Thank you for taking the risk on me. Coming back, remember coming back in that same building a few months later and finding Josh Peace in this back room, hidden away. And not the Josh Peace that you guys know today, not the great, confident, optimistic leader that he's become, but finding a guy who'd lost his whole crew, finding a guy who'd lost his way, lost his step seven, and finding my friend, my best warrior who was just at the brink of defeat. And I remember just thinking to myself, I have to come through for this guy. He's believed in me way too much. And we've been through way too much together. And I gotta come through. I gotta come through for him. And whatever the cost is, just show it to me, I'll pay it. Whatever the price, you show it to me, I'll pay it. And we made a decision that day to do what it takes to win. And not only did he go out there and smash that goal, but he's built a crew which today is going to get him a watch. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for taking the chance. I think about when we opened Italy, and there's this guy, Sean Grace, and he was from Wales, and he got promoted to assistant management in Wales, and we talked about opening up Italy, and he gives me a call. He's like, hey, I'm Sean, and I'm like, what's up? He's like, well, you did this call. You said, you're looking for people to help open up Italy, and I said, great. You speak Italian then? He's like, yeah, my girlfriend speaks Italian, so yeah, I speak Italian. And that wasn't true. He spoke no Italian. And, he went over there and spent the next 6 months, and he was by himself. We told him, hey, look, we're not going to be there for a while. You're going to have to go over there. You're going to have to start out. You're going to have to do the prelims, the interviews. You're going to have to be the manager. You're going to have to be the top leader. You're going to have to go to the field. You're going to have to take out observations. You're going to have to figure it out. And it was 6 months into it, and he'd go, gone up to 20 guys, gone back, gone up to 20 guys, gone back. And it's freezing outside, and we didn't have anything figured out. We didn't speak the language. We didn't, he didn't know what was going on, and we got a new client, and it still wasn't working. And we were being in Portugal, and Justin gave me a call. He's like, bro, you got to go to Milan. Like, you got to go there and see what's going on. We got to make a call on it. We've got Sean there. You've got Simon Morris there, and it's not going well. And we got to figure out what we're going to do. And so I got on a plane, and I landed, and I just went straight to the field because that's where they were, somewhere called Gorgonzola. Apparently they make a lot of cheese there, but not a lot of sales. We went out there we go out there for an hour, and we do zero. So there's 3 owners in the field. We do nothing at all. And so we're on the subway going back home, and I call Justin and get on the other end of the subway, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, so what do you think? And, this was the point where I think I needed a pick-me-up, because I was like, Justin, I got to be honest with you, like, I don't think this is going to work, right? And he's like, Christoph, just go do what you did. Get out there tomorrow, go out in the field with them, go work with your team. You've always been able to find a solution. I think you can do it. And I think our guys that we got there can do it. I think Sean can do it. And, the next day we were out there. We were just 3 people with a dream, and that was about it. But from that point, Sean, who went through all those ups, went through all those downs, is now consistently making 3,000 euros a week. He's going to be our first promoting owner in Italy, and that's a country where we'll have 10 owners in by July. So thank you, Sean. Thanks for taking the shot. And I look back at the last 6 years, and the part that scares me the most, because there was one day where I left. There was one day I quit, and I think about that day. I was pretty new, and I remember going to the field and taking 72 no's straight. It's just being done. Just, not doubting the business, not doubting the opportunity, but just I'm just like, I'm done. I'm out. I remember walking out of the field, leaving the field like 5 o'clock, taking all my stuff, taking out all my applications, and threw them in the back of my Volvo, and I'm just like, I'm done. And I happened to be in my hometown that day. That's where I was knocking doors at, and I'm driving back, and I'm driving back home, and I go by this movie theater, and I just do a U-turn in the middle of the road. I'm like, you know what? I love movies, and I love movies because they at that point in my life, it was a time where for a couple brief hours, I could forget about all my problems. I could get sucked into, this fantasy and forget about my issues. And so I go to see this movie, and I'm walking by the outside, and they have those posters out front with the pictures of the movies, and I didn't know what was playing. But I saw this picture. There's this guy, Will Smith, up there, and I'm like, oh man, Will Smith is so funny. I'm gonna go see a comedy. This is gonna be great. I'll get back in a good mood. I'll go back home, figure out what I'm gonna do next. And it wasn't a comedy. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It was a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. That movie saved my life. I remember by the end of it, he's looking. There's this moment where Will, and it's his real son in the movie, and he's looking at his son, and he's saying, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something. Not even me. I remember thinking to myself then, like, man, you're being weak. Let's just get back out there. There's got to be a way you can do this. And there was another time I came back in for settle-ups was when I came to work with Justin, and and I'm out in London, I'm knocking on doors, but it was one of those moments where I hadn't given 100% that day. I knew it. He knew it. We all knew it. It wasn't a secret. And I come back in, and he's getting into me a little bit, and I gave him some sort of excuse, something like, well, come on, Justin, I can figure it out tomorrow. Like, I'll eventually get this thing. Like, what's the big deal? And I remember just going nuts, and he's like, no, there's no rewind button on life. You can't go back and just do it again. Like, Christoph, this is your life. What's more important than your life? And what is more important than your life? And I hope that you don't return it, unused with all these moments of things that you almost accomplished, all these things uncompleted, all these times where you did just enough not to win, just enough not to have a victory. You should be in a rush. And if there's one thing I can say that I think has helped me get here today, it's just being aggressive about being a student and being aggressive about getting the information that I need and being aggressive about getting a coach that would push me out of my comfort zone. And the way that I look at the business is, how your first week in the field, I remember going out my first week and we were selling certificates and, everyone was saying, oh, I don't have any money. So I come back, I hadn't hit the bell and the manager says, well, why didn't you hit the bell? And I said, well, nobody had any money. And I thought that was like a really legitimate problem. And so then I remember sitting with a high roller, and I said, well, what do you do when someone says they don't have any money? How do you create money out of a rock, And he said, no, I just use this objection. Oh, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Like, that's why we're doing credit cards and checks and blah, 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 blah. And, then going out in the field the next day, and in that situation, using the information that I had, and then ringing the bell. And I look at the business that way, that maybe there's 10,000 situations here. Maybe there's 15,000 possible situations you'll ever be in your whole career. And there's a right and a wrong way to handle each of those situations. There's an answer, there's a solution for each of those situations. And so shame on me if I got a coach who knows all those questions, knows all those answers, and I have access to that information like everyone here does. Shame on me if I don't at least know what they would say. And I don't think that you ended up in this room today by accident. You're not here, you're not in this place on this day, in this room, as an accident. And you're capable, if you choose, of really making a difference. You're capable of having a really great life. I think 6.5 years ago, it's right before I started in the company. You want to know what today means to me? 6.5 years ago, I was in such a tough situation. Didn't have a career, didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was $26,000 in debt, and most months, I couldn't even find $375 to pay my rent. And I loved sleeping because when I slept, I could forgot about all those problems, and what's this business given to me? I'd say, I think about sleeping, I think about waking up. And you have a moment when you wake up, you have that first second where you're still dreaming and you don't really know what's going on and you're still kind of out of it. But then you have that second moment where reality hits you and where your problems come flooding back to you. And for me, 6.5 years ago, I hated that second. That was awful. I wanted to go back into dreamland. And now, when I wake up, that second is better than the first. And reality comes back. And it's not like we don't have problems. It's not like life is perfect. Of course, we still have problems. We fix problems every day. It's what we do. But that second moment for me now, it's like, what? It worked. Worked for me. So I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote. When I think about what kind of attitude should I have towards life, this is what I always think of. It says, "Go ye therefore and do that which is within you to do. Take no heed of gestures which would beckon you aside, and ask of no man permission to perform." Thank you, guys. All right. our next promotion, this is super exciting. They say our business is an extraordinary opportunity for ordinary people. And this guy, when he came in, he fit that. He was an ordinary guy. He was working, he'd never had a full-time job before. He was working 1 day a week at B&Q. He was living with his dad, but there was something about him. You could tell there was just some kind of ambition, some kind of magnetism about him. You could tell that even though he was just a normal guy with a normal CV like everybody else, that he was really just, he wanted a shot. He was looking for a way. And I just said, man, I got to get around this guy. I got to get around this guy. So remember, after his first day retrain, and he's commuting every day. He's got a 2-hour commute to get there. And so after his first day retrain, looking at him at the end of the night, it's late. After he settled up, he's about to go home. I'm like, hey, Josh, let's go grab a drink. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's go get a drink. So we went out, had a drink, got to know him a little bit, and then second day retrain, same thing at night. I'm like, hey, Josh, let's go have a drink. And he's like, again? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then the third night, he's exhausted. Come back, hey, Josh, let's go have a drink. He's like, man, I got to go home, bro. Like, I'm tired, And, but he's truly excited. And if you want to know what makes this guy great, just talk to his team. This guy falls in love with helping people. He does the business for all the right reasons. And that's why he has so much success. And I remember the Sunday before he got promoted to leadership, going out shopping with him and his friend, and we got him a suit, and I got the chance to meet his mom, and I know his family's here today, and I just want to say that you should be so proud. He is not just incredible at our business, but he is really an incredible person. He's an incredible friend, and today is the first of many checkpoints of what's going to be a truly unbelievable career for him. So please congratulate and welcome to Regional Consultancy, Josh Peace.